Today we're going to talk about how an ancient pilgrim route in northern Spain reflects our own day-to-day journeys in so many ways it's going to blow your mind. So stick around, I'll be right back. Hey there, Gracious Gang, it's Mike from thegraciousguest.org here with another episode of The Gracious Guest Show, and I'm particularly excited to jump into this one, which we're going to do in just a moment. But before we do that, please make sure you subscribe to the channel here, like this content, share it far and wide with someone that you think will benefit from it. We do all kinds of different topics on here, from the Shroud of Turin to looking at J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis's works, fantasy, literature, music. A lot of these different things intersect on the Gracious Guest show here, where we're ultimately trying to get at what really brings us to experiences of wonder and awe. And travel is one of those things that does that for me. As you may know, if you've listened to this show for a while, travel has been a big part of my life, and I love to share my own travel experiences. I actually want to do some more of that pretty soon. It's been a while. But something I've wanted to do for a while is to have somebody on to talk about the Camino de Santiago de Compostela. This is a pilgrimage, a very famous pilgrimage across northern Spain. I've never been on it myself, but I found out about it years ago, and my guest, Chris Barron, who has been on the Camino, we talk about that a little bit as far as how we both found out about it. And there's a wonderful movie came out 2010 or 11 called The Way, and that's what Camino means in Spanish. And it's this pilgrim way of journeying to this destination of the tomb of St. James, the apostle of Jesus. And this particular pilgrimage goes back, there's different stories on it, but it seems to go back to at least the 9th century. There were certain eras where it was a little more prominent in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. It starts to kind of wane a little bit just because of different challenges and wars and that kind of stuff. And then there was a revival starting in the 18th or 19th century, in the 1800s. And so you can find out all sorts of information online. I've posted a few links below, both to the Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez film, The Way, which is one of my favorite movies. Beautiful, beautiful movie. Filmed on location on many points along the Camino. But Chris, in addition to being a pellegrino, a traveler, a pilgrim traveler of the Compostela a couple years back, Chris is also a music therapist. He shares a little bit about that. And he also has a particular talent for this instrument called the hang, or hang, it's spelled. And I have a couple links below as well, as you can see Chris playing that instrument. It's a very intriguing sound, very, very soothing and haunting and all kinds of things all jumbled up into one. So I'm going to get right to it now. My interview with Chris Barron, joining me all the way across the pond from the UK to share his experiences in this first installment of a series I'm hoping to do with other pilgrims who have been on the Camino called Tales from the Camino. Check it out. All right, Chris Barron, thank you so much for being my gracious guest here today on the show.
Thank you.
Now, where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in the southwest UK, just outside Bath, in a place called Corsham.
Okay.
It's a small little market town. Yeah.
Sure. It's funny. I never anticipated having quite a few now friends from the UK who've appeared on the show. So I'm actually getting more used to sort of this time frame of doing an interview like this. So, But yeah, so we just for those who, people clicking on this, any number of reasons that I've tried to sort of draw people here with different keywords and things, and just but just to kind of maybe give folks a general kind of overview of kind of your background, anything you'd care to share as far as just to set up what we're going to talk about today in a couple different areas.
Yeah, I guess, I'm a musician, percussionist, I'm a music therapist. My musical formation would have been really feeling drawn to drums when I was a kid, getting involved in the very early days of electronic house music, hip hop, kind of from the Bronx in New York. I ended up going to the Bronx actually. I was quite immersed in the early days of hip hop music culture, more like the breakdance, graffiti art. I was a graffiti artist as well. Yeah, and then that kind of evolved. I kind of grew up then playing percussion for DJs. The electronic house music scene coming out of Chicago, London, and Ibiza. Was involved in that and bands. And then that kind of evolved into experiencing community drum circles. I became a drum circle facilitator. Went traveling around the world busking with the hung sound sculpture, which I discovered. Forged a good friendship with those guys that make them in Switzerland, and I went busking kind of all the way around from, I guess, China to San Diego and Rome, Spain, all places in between, Budapest. And then decided that I was having such a good experience witnessing people's reaction to music that I wanted to explore music therapy. So I could use my my passion for music and for kind of reaching out to people to use those skills and become a music therapist. So a lot of my work has been in mental health. Currently working in educational settings, mostly schools, one-to-one with kids and at risk, hard to reach teenagers, and a little bit of hospital work, mental health work, and a bit of lecturing, a bit of training. Yeah. As for my faith, I'm a Catholic Christian, involved with the renewal side of Catholic faith, the charismatic renewal they call it.
Sure.
My wife Leanne, she kind of comes from the Catch the Fire from Toronto stream churches, so I go with my wife to different things as well. We kind of mass with me. Yeah, that's kind of like sort of around of my
Well, just and fascinating to. I don't know very much about formally, about musical or music therapy. I had a couple friends who sort of headed that path years back. I haven't seen some of them. It was way back in the day. But did you? What was maybe a little bit more of kind of opening that up? Was there someone in particular that kind of you knew who was in that venue, or you just sort of like you had said a little bit more about seeing the effects of kind of the music you were playing? How did that path go for you?
Yeah, well, I was volunteering in a mental health hospital on a Friday because I had a friend that worked there, and he managed to get me in. So I was working as a decorator at the time and just doing music kind of stuff, gigs and bit of worship and stuff like that here and there. And so going to this hospital, I ended up getting a job there because I'd take an instrument in like percussion and get people involved, and it was really productive. So I managed to get a job through doing the voluntary work, which is why I went in to do the voluntary work with the hope of getting a job. So, they gave me a job.
Sweet.
And I set up this drum circle with acute patients and medium and low secure patients. And there was a doctor at the time that I was working with, Dr. Yogi from Sri Lanka. He quite loved percussion and he was really supportive of my work. But one day he came to see me and says, well, what are you doing with my patients? And I thought I was in trouble. And I was like, oh no, I'm in trouble with the doctor. And he said, no, whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it, because every patient coming to the drum circle, we call drumming for health.
Okay.
He noticed that they were starting to recover much quicker.
Wow.
And he started to reduce their medication, and it was quite sustainable. And that really opened up a whole new lot of support and recognition of the work, which triggered my desire to find out more about what was happening, which led me on the path to being a music therapist. Yeah.
Wow. Was that before, because we're gonna get into your experience of the Camino in a particular way here.
Yeah.
But how did that connect? Was that somehow connected there, or was that a separate sort of interest of yours?
That was a separate interest before I went on the Camino. I didn't know about the Camino then.
Okay. How did you find out about the Camino? And maybe and I said a little bit at the beginning, or well, I guess it's always weird to say that. I'll record it later, but by the time people are watching this, but just a little overview at the beginning. But maybe if you want to kind of give a little bit of background too, for maybe what about the Camino got your attention first.
I saw the film that you mentioned, The Way, with Martin Sheen. That was how I found out about the Camino. I don't even know how I came across the film. I think I was just probably, on Netflix or something, just wanting to watch a film, come across that, grab my attention. I thought it was a brilliant film, brilliant story, very authentic, very interesting. And I thought, maybe I'd like to do that one day. When I did my undergraduate degree, when I finished and I had a bit of space, that was when I did it. So that was about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more than 6 years. End of 2016, actually. Was when I did the Camino.
And was there anything in particular I always, of course, you don't need to share, of course, any, like, who am I? You don't need to share anything you don't want to share. But as far as I don't know if, I've heard, and this is why I want to make this actually a regular series for folks to be able to share their experiences in the Camino. So this is your episode 1, Chris. So that's what get to kick it off here. But was there anything I've heard folks, that they have these different reasons that they go, and that then there's sometimes, reasons within reasons that they discover through it. Of course, this sort of way to go on a pilgrimage that kind of reflects in some ways the deeper pilgrimage of life. Some people have said. So, was there anything in particular, that really was prompting you to want to try it out, and in your own spiritual life per se?
Yeah, I think that I was at a point where I just graduated. I was the first person in my family to go to university. I got a first class honours, so I was really proud of that. And I worked really hard, and I was very focused, and it was quite intense because I wasn't academic. I hated school, but I was passionate about the subject, which was creative, expressive arts, therapies in music, which was kind of like the pathway into the masters in music therapy. But anyway, I finished that. I'd seen the film, might have been while I was at uni. I think I watched it a couple of times and just thought and felt really, this is going to be a really good time to do this. I've just graduated and I can just switch off from that 3 years of intensity and go and do the Camino. I didn't have any expectations. I just thought, just go and experience it, go and walk the whole thing, and just see what happens. And it was a great time to do it because I just felt that I really needed to just let off a lot of intense pressure and focus and just switch off. But what I do remember is when I began watching, when I made the decision, right, I'm going to do the Camino, and I began watching stuff on YouTube, just advice, about shoes and things, tips and that kind of,
the practical preparation.
How can I prepare for the Camino? What should I do? So I remember in that process of preparation, there were times where I'd get quite emotional, and I kind of felt that was unexpected. But it was just like, I guess, some kind of a hint or a sign. I'm getting kind of really emotional about walking the Camino. I'm really feeling a need and a pull. I've got to go, and I want to go, and I am going. And this might be quite an emotional experience because I was getting emotional just preparing. So, yeah.
So you knew something was coming. Where did you? So how long did you basically prepare for it, and kind of where did you start? What was that sort of transition to the launching of it like?
Yeah, it was just watching and listening to the YouTube videos of people's experiences and thoughts, and then I kind of thought, well, I'm not going to watch too much because that's your experience, and I want my own. But really, it was just like, what should I take in my backpack? How much stuff? And I took quite a light load, as light as possible, just so I could have more of a sense of freedom.
Right. And
I think that's one big thing about the Camino is a sense of freedom that you have, which takes you out of the regular, normal, Western civilizations we live in that are so stressful and pressurizing us. You get that sense of freedom and release taken away, and you're able to then really slow down and connect. So yeah, go on.
Because I'm just thinking I know there's different, I guess, or maybe different access, but if access points with the right way to put it, start points, that kind of thing. Like, was there, where exactly did you kind of begin it then officially?
That's it. That's one thing that I was finding out about, where to start and which route to go.
Yeah.
So I decided to start at the popular place in France. I forgot what it was called now. So I flew into, I think it's called Birias or Birias or something like that in France, and then got the bus to Pierre something de la Porte or something. I don't know. I can't remember. And did the traditional route, go through the Pyrenees at the beginning over France into Spain.
Right.
Yeah. So I decided that was the route I was going to go because that was the traditional way to begin.
I was trying to look up the name of it. We'll have different things in the show notes and stuff too for folks to kind of learn more. And there's so many websites and stuff like that. Of course, I was just pulling a few up there, but now did you, just to back up here a sec? I forgot to ask. So you mentioned earlier the hung, how'd you call it again?
Sound sculpture.
What was? That's it. Sound sculpture. What a cool phrase. So, why don't we just kind of explore that for a little bit? Because I would love to know a little bit more about how you found out about that and where this sort of fit in the timeline here. Like if you were already playing that at the time, or if that was something that kind of developed. I have a few links below that were sent to me just initially before I got to chat with you here, just to give me a little window into some of your experience there. But why don't you share on that a little bit?
Okay, yeah. So I was studying therapeutic use of drums and percussion in Nottingham, and there was a jazz musician there. And on the last session of our training, which lasted a year, we go most weekends, he brought this, oval shaped instrument with like 8 notes on it, 7 notes, I can't remember, and just played it, and it was really intriguing because of the shape and the sound. Asked him where'd you get these from, and it was in the little kind of sticker inside, Pan Art, Switzerland. They didn't have a website because they're not mass produced, so you have to write them a letter.
Really?
And,
wow.
Yeah, they got thousands and thousands of letters from all around the world. People wanting one. So I wrote them a letter and told them about my work, what I do, and percussionist working in mental health, and came across the instrument. Would really like one. I think it'd be really beneficial for people that I work with and for myself as a musician to play and explore it. And they invited me over, like after kind of they got the letter and wrote back and says, I think it was October I wrote to them in the summer. So a few months later I was over in Switzerland at Pan Art and spent 3 days there with them and got my first instrument off them. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was my kind of initial meeting, forging a good relationship, staying in contact, and that relationship has got stronger over the years. And so my experiences of working with the instrument and with Pan Art as they, evolve the instruments. There's a whole ensemble now, you see.
Sure.
So I have the whole ensemble, and just contribute my experiences to their, research and development.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's so intriguing, and like I said, I definitely encourage people to check out the videos. It was 3 that our show friend Brenda Benton sent along here, because Brenda introduced you to me, but it's interesting. I don't know what I was expecting, or I don't know that I didn't really have anything in my mind going into it. And it's truly fascinating, because I feel like if I had been listening to it, and I'm a musician myself, over the years, and mostly brass and a little bit of bass and singing.
Yeah.
But I'm just so intrigued by, if I just heard it and didn't see it, I don't know what I would have thought I was listening to. or how many people are playing it. So how long did it what was the process of even beginning to sort of learn how to play that, and exploring it?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about the philosophy with playing hang, there's no right or wrong. And it's very accessible, so you can't play a wrong note on them. And it's just exploring and making a connection, an emotional connection with the sound and the frequency and the vibration and the lenticular shape of the instrument, just kind of reconnecting with it. And letting, what I've discovered over the years is that the instrument is actually the teacher. It interacts with you. You develop a relationship with it.
Wow.
And the music, it speaks to your soul, and the way you play it is very interesting. I mean, you can get very technical if you want, but the idea really with the hung and the approach and the philosophy of play is to get out of your head and into your body and your feelings, out of theory and just into a world of making music. It has a very powerful effect on you.
Right.
Because of the design, the material, the invention.
Yeah.
The sound it produces.
It does seem to be music in general's unique uniqueness, in terms of aesthetics. I mean, I see a beautiful painting, or I read something though that's linguistically beautiful, and to give them their due. But I always feel like music, I forget who I heard say this way recently in something I was listening to. I think they were dead on, that it seems to be the most kind of immediately arresting kind of form of beauty that just happens to you, right? Like it's just, and you like, it can instantly trigger an emotional swell that you don't know where it came from, in a way nothing else really seems to be able to. I seem,
exactly. I think that out of all the art forms, music is the one that we most connect to, because it's part of our developmental process from from the womb, really. Music,
sure,
so innate to us. So most people respond and listen to music in some shape or form, but not everybody would really gravitate to poetry or art.
Right.
But everyone listens to music.
Right.
I don't really know anyone that doesn't.
Yeah. Even something, some really, kind of rebellious, sort of anti-establishment, like if you get like a really rebellious kind of band and they're like, bucking the system and all that. But even so, people in that audience, they're tapping their toe, they're dancing. Like there's this immediate kind of social connection, even if you're trying to,
exactly
sort of resist some of that. But it's fascinating. But now, were you doing any, like, were you incorporating any of that on your experience with the Camino? Like, did you bring the hung with you basically on the Camino, or?
I did think of taking it.
Kind of hard to haul it, huh? Maybe.
I did think of taking it, but I decided in the end not to. But the funny thing is, like, after the Camino, jumping ahead, but we can come back. But after the Camino, I just couldn't stop walking everywhere. and I met came across this guy on the internet somewhere, and I forgot his name now anyway, but he walked around the world.
Yeah.
It took him years, and his wife would travel out wherever he was every year. I got in touch with him because I had this crazy idea. You know what? I'm going to just keep walking like this guy, but I'm going to take my instrument this time. And I'm going to do like loads of research and take it around different cultures. And I seriously contemplated it, but no, I didn't do it.
I hadn't thought of that you would get, so used to the walking. I mean, it's, I don't walk anywhere super far, but I just, in my teaching kind of job day to day, I'm on my feet most of the day, and I'm just sort of used to it. And, then you get those periods where you're a little more sedentary and you just start to recognize, like, wow, it really makes a difference when I'm walking more. So I can't imagine. Well, how far did you go, by the way, too? Is it, I meant to look this up, but I forget how far.
500 kilometers, I think. If you do get to Santiago and then go to Finisterre.
Okay.
I think it's 500 kilometers, about 400 miles.
Yeah.
And I purposely took kind of, I guess this is kind of the spiritual pilgrimage type aspect of it. I purposely took 40 days because that was part of my research.
Yeah.
How long does it actually take,
Right.
So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do 40 days, like, because that's kind of like a biblical kind of chunk.
Might as well.
Number. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take 40 days and 40 nights and see what happens. And you know what? I hit the nail on the head. It kind of just synchronized and all happened and ended in that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you do a pretty similar amount each day, or did you break it up, do some stretches longer on some days and shorter on others?
Yeah, some days were a bit longer, some days were shorter. Yeah, you just learn to go with the flow and listen to your heart and listen to your body.
Yeah.
You could.
What time of year was it too? I meant to ask that because I don't know how much the seasonal aspect can kind of change the experience of it.
Yeah, I think I chose a really good time, which was spring. It wasn't really hot.
Okay.
And it wasn't packed. It was busy, but it wasn't packed. And I think that was a really great time to go.
Okay. So
a couple of places I stayed over, longer, a few days at a rest. Maybe a couple of 3 nights. And
sure.
Yeah.
Did you meet up with people? Because I know, like, of course, in the movie, which again we have linked down below, because I think I can't remember if I'd ever heard of it before I saw the film, because like you said too, it was a gateway. I think a lot of people found out about the Camino through that film, which was, I think, one of the stated goals and desires of Emilio Estevez and Martin Sheen, his dad, who of course star in the film, and who had been on it before, was to sort of spread awareness of that, but some of those deeper themes as well. But one of the big themes, of course, in the movie is connection and communion, and these people whose paths cross, reflective of life, right?
Yeah.
I imagine there's plenty of stories you have probably in that category, but then in particular just encounters you had that were really interesting, or
Yeah. So I didn't kind of, I did meet up with one guy who's become a very good close friend now, Giovanni, and he lives in Sardinia, and our paths met. We had a good connection, and he talked about having this vision of developing an eco village in Sardinia. We joke about calling it San Francesco's Eco Village because of St. Francis, the animals and the nature and that.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's well on the way with that now. Our paths met, and then I wouldn't see him for a couple of days, but we took numbers, and I purposely didn't really want to, be messaging, but I felt that we had a really good connection, and he was the only person that I did message, where are you? Can you maybe wait, and I'll see you in a bit, and a day or two, and so we became very, very good friends, shared some of the Camino together, positive, powerful experiences and good laughs and lots of fun. And then there was another crowd who I did remember meeting a few times from Brazil, a couple of lads, I forgot their names now. And there was a young woman. It was about four of them. I can't remember where she was from. I think it was Europe. But I remember we'd have some laughs, and you'd see familiar faces here and there, or you might not ever see them again. And this crowd, we kind of see each other often. Maybe we're walking at the same kind of similar paces, who knows? But anyway, so we had some really good laughs and some really good connections. And then I never saw them for quite a while. And I remember getting towards probably my final week, and I'd been on my own for quite a few days, and I was actually starting to feel quite lonely.
Yeah,
thinking, I really want to see someone that I know, and I haven't yet. Anyway, I walked into this village and heard a bit of noise up in this cafe, walked towards this cafe, and it was them. But the thing is, when I saw them, it just hit me like I felt really ecstatic and excited, and it was like, wow. And they felt the same.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why that happened, but it was just a really powerful, experience of meeting people that you'd already met, hadn't seen for ages, feeling quite lonely, a little bit isolated, and then seeing someone that you knew again, and boom, I feel connected again. I don't feel like I'm on my own on the Camino.
Right. Well, and I imagine it's just, you're it's not any of your homeland in that case, but here you are meeting and you have this shared experience. And I just love, the sort of the spiritual analogy of that is just so palpable and amazing to me, where it's, because I was just saying this to my wife the other day. I said, there's people, like there's fellow countrymen, like there's people that I work with, or people certainly that have, that I grew up with sometimes, that we have all of these shared, sort of environmental experiences and geographic experiences, but that's about it. Like we don't, like we don't actually, like lifestyle, worldview, like we couldn't be more different. And I just don't really connect with them. And yet, I'll connect tremendously with someone from, someone I meet from Japan or from India or from somewhere completely different background, but our faiths, or our shared experience in this particular deep way just transcends all that. And I just think that's such a wonderful, I wonder if that's a little version of that same kind of thing going on there, that same psychological connection too.
Yeah, definitely. I think so, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because things can be kind of, I think what needs to be enhanced on the Camino is enhanced and magnified in a way, I guess, that you were able, in my experience, you were able to see and experience and feel things in a way that you kind of disconnected from in the stress of day-to-day living. I mean, you can be if you make points of it, but I think the Camino really powerfully enhances and magnifies what needs to be for you. Yeah, either things about yourself
Wow.
that maybe you need to look at and deal with, or just like, the connection with other people.
Sure.
Is so valuable and important, whoever they are, in whoever we meet, to value people.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if there's a connection there too, because I would imagine, would you say that just the natural beauty, like the exposure to nature, probably has a big part to do with that, I would think. Just the in a world where we're so, I mean, and granted, we're using technology right now to get this out to people, so we're not knocking technology, but our tendency to be a little obsessed with the stuff we've made, and see that as more real than the things God has made, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see any of that also in the musical therapy that you do as well? Do you kind of get out into the elements sometimes? Does that help with some of that as well? Or I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've got a project coming up in March, which will be on a farm. There's a lot of other there's a cafe there and stuff, and we've got this big outdoor space to create a sound garden.
Okay.
Mixed in with nature outside, so people will come in, learning disabilities, different needs, mental health groups.
Wow.
So we're going to make the garden into like a sound space as well, interactive, but also run some music for wellbeing groups there outside as well, probably with a lot of drumming, percussion things, and accessible stuff that people can enjoy. I
feel like I'm just thinking, as I listen to you describing some of that, I'm like, I need some of that. I don't know if you ever, because I'll put in like these things are a godsend, quite frankly, because I'll pop these in like at school during a planned period or something like that, where it's just there's just so much noise all around us all the time, and I'll pop these in. I'll put them on the sensory. It's like sensory deprivation. I'll get a soundscape on Spotify or something where it's just nature sounds, or a really good film score. I tend to do a lot more than, I don't go back to I'll listen to the hits, from high school and college. I love all that, or when I'm cooking or on the road. But when I just need to, think a little bit, it really makes a difference, I've found.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, one of my experiences on the Camino was, you go through cities and towns and villages, but you go through a lot of countryside as well. And if you're walking a long way, you experience that a lot. So there is a connection to the outside world and the elements and the quiet, and your senses are heightened. Your hearing's heightened. I remember when I got back, that was immediately when I got back, the noise pollution was very intense, and I could really sense it. And I had to wear plugs in my ears to keep it at bay a bit, and then we kind of then get numbed back into it and desensitized again.
Right. And you don't want to. Like, you don't want to be desensitized.
And you don't want to, no.
Oh, my gosh.
You don't want to, no.
Because it's better than being overwhelmed by it, though. But yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, and I don't want to forget here, Chris. I don't know if this is a good place to bring it up or not, or if there's a better place, let me know. But because I understand, and this is sort of, I don't know the details, so it's a surprise to me too. But I understand there's some sort of a connection here with the Shroud of Turin. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Shroud of Turin, I guess, now this is powerful, because ultimately my connection with you now actually goes back to the Shroud, and how the Shroud plays a role in really connecting people, because, Brenda, who's a friend of my mum and dad, Brenda and Stu. Brenda was at my wedding.
Wow.
Brenda and Stu came there. And I met Brenda, I think, through my parents, and Brenda was involved with the Shroud.
Right.
So this is how we're connected through the Shroud connection. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Shroud thing, I guess, I went on a pilgrimage. Quick story about the Shroud then. So I went on a pilgrimage to Medjugorje, which is a small town in Bosnia.
Yeah.
It's a powerful place, a beautiful experience there. I've been about 5 times ever since I became a Christian about 30 years ago. But one trip, I think it might have been my last trip. You know, there's shops around and there's artwork and there's, you know, about the face and stuff. And there was a sculpture of the face of Jesus taken from the Shroud. They'd used that as the inspiration.
Right.
And I wanted to buy it, but it looked so, it was just drawing me in. And I wanted to buy it, but I didn't have the money really. And so I thought, you know, well, I just used to have a coffee by there and look at it, and you know. Yeah. I didn't buy it, but I went for a walk. I came to a small orphanage, and knocked on the door. I just ended up there. I don't know how. I was just walking, and had a little shop, and had loads of stuff there that the kids had made, and the kids had made packets of cards, and these cards, they're all wrapped up. There's probably about 5 or 6 cards of pictures that the kids had drawn and then made into like cards that you could write and send. And I brought a packet. The money's donated to the orphanage. Put them in my bag, and that was it. You know, went back home. Got my flight back home. Got home, emptying my bag, and opened these cards up. And you guess what? I couldn't believe it. There was a postcard of the sculpture of that face of Christ in the Shroud, and it just dropped out on the floor, and amongst these other cards that were all drawn by kids. And I just thought, what? That is just so, like, what are the chances of that happening?
That is bizarre.
Blown away, and I was like, I don't know what happened to that card, but I felt like to give it away.
Yeah.
A couple of 3 years later, and passed it on to somebody else to have an experience.
Yeah.
And then I came into contact with Brenda, and that was all the Shroud. And that opened up a whole load of doors for me to relocate down to Bristol, which is down the road from where we live.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is where we live now, and you know.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
Well, is that because, you know, obviously my channel's been doing a lot of Shroud related interviews. It's not the only thing, but it's my sort of flagship now, because it's so much fun. But a sort of a related topic that comes up a lot is the Sudarium of Oviedo in Spain. And I don't know. I haven't looked at the map here. Is that along the Camino route, or is that, I have to do a little search?
I've never heard of it. I don't know what that is. What
so it's a face cloth. It's believed to be the face cloth of Jesus, because there's the 2 cloths mentioned, the linen wrappings and then the face cloth that was set to the side.
Is that a painting type thing?
It's just basically like a napkin, and it just has blood stains. It doesn't have an image on it, but it has blood stains.
Oh, okay.
And but it's fascinating because it's in a cathedral. I think it's St. John the Baptist, I want to say, cathedral in Oviedo, Spain, but I'm not sure if that's on the pilgrim route or not. But yeah, there's been a lot of research to suggest that they match, that they've both been on the same head, which is fascinating. But I just thought I'd ask, and I didn't know. I didn't know if you'd seen it or. Yeah.
No, I haven't not heard of it or seen it. Well, I might have if it was on the Camino. I don't know. There's so many things on there that you come into and forget about.
Right. Yeah. I should have looked more closely at the map. I got back from work a little closer to our recording time than I intended to, so I didn't have as much time to double check that. But yeah, just getting back to the Camino for a couple more minutes here, you know, that I have you. But if you had to, I'm sure you can't pick 10 things, but let alone one thing.
Yeah.
But if there were a few particular takeaways that really you would want to share with anybody watching or listening on the audio podcast version of it, certainly, what would maybe some of those things be, or what, if there was any sort of additionally transformative kind of experience that you went through, just anything else you want to share about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, if you're contemplating going on the Camino, you can contemplate it for years, and never do it. If you're contemplating it, just make every effort that you can to just get on the way and do it, and just have your own experience. People go for a week, then they come back, they start again from the place they finished. If you're contemplating it, I'd just say just kind of pray about it and try and make it happen. And see if the doors are going to open for you to go forth and do it. I think the other thing, here's a story then. So, I'd heard stories quite profound, and you'd say, being a Christian, that's definitely divine providence at work for somebody's life there. But I never really went with that purpose. I want this, like, I've got to have this like amazing supernatural or holy providential thing happen to me. I didn't have that. Just go and be open to your own personal experience. But what did happen, something did happen, and I wasn't expecting it. And it's related to my wife, Leanne. So Leanne and I used to date many years ago, 2002, 3, 4, around about then. But our relationship, we got engaged, but it kind of wasn't the right time, really, and we kind of went our own separate ways, and that was really painful because we were really good buddies, and But anyway, so we kept in touch every now and then. We had quite 3, 4 years no contact, just because we needed that time to heal and get on with our lives. But Leanne was really, a faithful friend. She'd always reach out. How are you doing? Where are you? What's happening? I hadn't heard from her for a while. She contacted me while I was at uni, when we had a bit of chat and talk, and invited her to come and visit, but she didn't. Anyway, I'm on the Camino. I purposely kept my phone off and wasn't really engaging on my phone or social media. That's another tip. That if you can, keep off social media and everything. It's a distraction, and it can keep you away from a real immersion into the experience. Sure. So I decided, not to use my phone, only if it was really necessary. And I switched my phone, and I think it was to contact Giovanni, the guy that I'd met. And I got a text from Leanne, and she didn't know I was on the Camino.
Yeah.
So I texted back. I said, "Yeah, great. How are you? I'm all right. I'm walking the Camino. I'm not being rude, but my phone's going to be off. I will contact you when I get back." So I got back, and I didn't contact her straight away. It was probably 2 or 3 months after the Camino, and then I did contact her, and we chatted. Said hello, caught up, and then the Camino, months later, probably maybe a year after the Camino, or maybe sooner, or within that year, I felt like that the Camino taught me about making choices and making decisions in your life that you need to make, and not be put off by the risk, or you've got one life, you're not perfect, you're going to make mistakes, but we've all got choices to make. And I ended up falling back in love with Leanne, and Leanne did with me.
Mm.
And we got married, and I believe that was inspired by my Camino walk, because it gave me the
Wow.
courage to make a choice, which was to open my heart again to someone that I deeply loved
Wow.
in the past, and that flame was rekindled in both of us. And
Wow.
we dated and spent the time courting, and decided let's get married. So I put that down to something that happened on the Camino. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It helped me make a choice, and maybe if I hadn't walked the Camino, I may not have been ready or able to make a choice that involved risk and my future. So for me, I think that was my big providential thing.
Excuse me.
That happened.
Well, that's certainly unexpected.
Yeah,
for sure. Oh my.
Yeah, that's it. I remember when I got to Santiago, I will say as well, I couldn't actually go in to the church.
Oh, really?
I was so like, I spent so many days walking to get here. I don't feel even kind of ready to go in there. And I had to wait. I emotionally and mentally couldn't go in. So I just hung around for a day. And I went in. It was amazing.
Did you get to see that the gigantic incense?
Yeah.
Because that's, of course, it's like one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. That thing, I saw it. And you know what happened? Another thing happened there. The brothers are there. They're doing the rope thing, and it's swinging during mass, and it's going. And I closed my eyes because there's a choir and they're singing, and I watched it for a bit, and then I just closed my eyes to absorb the atmosphere. And honestly, my eyes were closed, but in my spirit, I could see inside this auditorium thing, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And there was an image of Jesus on the cross, and it was just burning with flames on fire.
Wow.
And it was just swinging like, and I kind of came out of that and opened my eyes when it slowed down. I was like, whoa, I just saw Jesus on the cross in that thing, man. Like, wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was quite powerful. I don't know why I saw that, but I did.
It just
see
seems
that,
to be this experience. It's like this focal point of all of these, all and all the people on it, right? All these different little streams and tributaries, just all kind of this convergence in this experience of God knowing where everyone of us is, even if we don't know where we ourselves are. We're lost along the path, or sometimes on the right path, but you just don't know it. You need that little extra, just guidance and confidence from Him. And I commend you as if you need me to say that, for making that decision and discerning that, and for all that you're doing with all these folks who need help, because I'm sure that you're bringing these lessons, even ones that maybe you don't realize or you're not actively thinking about, this being a direct connection to that, but and all the work that you're doing with music therapy. And is there just maybe, is there any kind of final advice you have? You already kind of said just for people just to discern that and to pray as far as the Camino goes, but anything else you want to leave, Chris, with just our guests today at all, or our audience rather?
I think just have the courage to be real and be authentic and be who you are, and I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people, especially myself. And that's an ongoing thing, but I think Camino can help you get in touch with that more, and have the courage and the confidence and the liberating experience to just not care about anything that's not authentic and real, and just be authentic and be real and do what you need to do and be who you need to be, say what you need to say, walk the way you need to walk, because no one can walk in your shoes, can they? It's your life, it's your journey, and it's your walk, and God's calling you to live it and walk it with Him, and so just as the Nike logo says, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
Do it,
Each we all have our own Camino one way or the other. So
yeah.
Exactly. Oh wow. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I'd like to have you back on, maybe to talk maybe more in depth about the hung and just
yeah, sure.
Maybe we could get a demonstration as well if you'd be willing to do that. So,
I'd love to.
Well, sure. Pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for sharing your Camino experience. Yeah, God bless.
Thank you.
Take
God
care.
Bless you. Take care. Bye.
Well, that was fun and really, really insightful and interesting. And I don't know if I'll ever get to do the Camino, but it is something on my heart I want to prayerfully consider, like he was saying, to really be intentional, thoughtful, discerning, but also if you have that inkling to not be afraid to sort of seize on that opportunity if it's something that you can do. And so that's something I'm thinking about. I did look it up, by the way, after we had talked, and Oviedo, where the Sidarium is kept, is not on the traditional route. There's different routes. Some of the routes, I guess, mirrored old Roman roads and that sort of thing. So there's the far northernmost route, it looks like, actually goes through Oviedo. So there is a way to do the Camino and see Oviedo. And I do believe a friend of our show here, Martha May, who's been on a number of times to talk about the Shroud and the Sidarium, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure she mentioned that specifically. So I'll have to maybe have her back on and share her experiences of that in a particular way. Thank you all for joining me here today on the Gracious Guest Show. As always, I can't imagine how I got to this point with just being able to have all this content available for you, and the channel's really growing. So thank you so much. Spread the word and help grow it some more. Stay tuned for more really awesome interviews and other content coming up. And until next time, don't forget to wonder. Take care.